The massive war room aboard the flagship Dominion's Edge buzzed with quiet activity. Dozens of alien officers moved between glowing displays, their scaled hands dancing across control panels. Admiral Kex stood at the center of it all, her tall figure casting shadows across the tactical hologram that showed their target system. "Gentlemen," she announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 47 worlds. "Today we plan the capture of our 48th. The hologram shifted to show a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. To the assembled commanders it looked unremarkable. Just another primitive world waiting to join the Zephyrian hegemony. Intelligence Officer Velkan approached the display, his usually confident demeanor replaced by obvious nervousness. His hands shook slightly as he activated his datapad. The other officers noticed his unease, exchanging glances among themselves. "Admiral," Velkan began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I must present the intelligence report on the target world designated Terra 3. Kex waved dismissively. "Make it quick, Velkan. The invasion fleet launches in 3 days. Velkan's throat made a clicking sound, the Zephyrian equivalent of swallowing hard. "Ma'am, according to our databases, Terra 3 is classified as a Class 15 death world." The room fell silent. Several officers stopped what they were doing to stare at Velkan. Admiral Kex eyes narrowed to thin slits. "Class 15? She repeated slowly. "That's the highest classification in our system." "Yes, Admiral." "The planet exhibits gravitational force 2.3 times our standard. The atmospheric composition contains oxygen levels that would be toxic to most known species. The surface temperature varies wildly between regions, and the world experiences regular weather events that would destroy our equipment." Squadron Commander Zelrath, a veteran of 20 campaigns, laughed. "Velkan, you're starting to sound like you believe those old superstitions. A planet is just a planet." Other officers joined in the laughter, but Velkan pressed on. "Sir, it's not just the planetary conditions. The inhabitants, the species that calls itself human, they've adapted to survive in these conditions. Our preliminary scans show they have dense bone structures, powerful muscle systems, and healing capabilities far beyond anything we've encountered." Admiral Kex moved closer to the hologram, studying the rotating planet. "How many inhabitants?" "Approximately 8 billion, Admiral." 8 billion primitives living on a hostile rock, Kex mused. "What's their technology level?" "Early spaceflight capability, basic energy weapons, primitive computing systems. They've barely left their own planet." The Admiral smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Then what exactly are you worried about, Intelligence Officer?" Velkan's hands trembled as he pulled up more data. "Ma'am, there are historical precedents. 300 years ago, the Corvani Empire attempted to invade a Class 12 death world. The entire invasion force vanished. No survivors, no distress signals. The Empire fell within a decade. The Corvani were weak," spat General Thexmore from across the room. "They relied too heavily on their technology and forgot the value of superior numbers." "But Admiral," Velkan continued desperately, "the humans don't just survive on this death world. They thrive. Our long-range observations show they engage in recreational activities in environments that would kill our soldiers within minutes. They swim in waters with predators, climb mountains in freezing temperatures, and run vast distances for no tactical purpose." Commander Zelrath studied the data more carefully. "These readings can't be accurate. This shows humans regularly survive injuries that would be fatal to us. Blood loss levels, bone breaks, tissue damage. How is this possible?" "That's what I'm trying to explain," Velkan said urgently. "This planet has created something unlike anything in our databases. These humans aren't just tough. They're designed for war." Admiral Kex patience was wearing thin. "Designed for war? By whom?" "By their world, Admiral. Every day of their existence has been a battle for survival. Their planet has tested them with predators, diseases, natural disasters, and environmental extremes. Those who couldn't adapt died. Those who survived became stronger." The Admiral walked around the hologram, examining it from all angles. "You're telling me that a planet full of primitives, who haven't even mastered interstellar travel, poses a threat to the most powerful military force in the galaxy?" "Yes, Admiral. That's exactly what I'm telling you." The room erupted in laughter again. Even the usually serious Zelrath was smiling. "Velkan, you've been reading too many old texts. These humans might be tough for primitives, but they've never faced plasma weapons. They've never seen energy shields. Their strongest metals will melt under our weakest attacks. Velkin tried one more time. Admiral, the database specifically recommends avoiding all contact with Class 15 Death World inhabitants. The risk assessment is marked as extreme caution advised. Extreme caution, Admiral Kexthyra repeated mockingly. For a species that still uses chemical propulsion for space travel. She turned to address the entire room. Gentlemen, we have conquered worlds with advanced shields, powerful weapons, and millions of trained soldiers. Are we really going to be intimidated by a bunch of primitives living on a rock? The officers cheered and stamped their feet in approval. Admiral Kexthyra raised her hand for silence. The invasion will proceed as planned. 3 full battle groups will establish orbital supremacy, while our ground forces secure the major population centers. With our superior technology and tactics, resistance should collapse within days. Velkin made one final attempt. Admiral, please, at least review the detailed reports. These humans have something our other conquests lacked. They have what? Kexthyra demanded. Experience, ma'am. Millions of years of experience in warfare. Not against each other, but against their entire planet. Every human alive today is descended from ancestors who survived impossible odds. General Thexmore stepped forward. Intelligence officer, you're dismissed. Return to your quarters and review our standard invasion protocols. Perhaps that will remind you of our capabilities. As Velkin gathered his datapads, Admiral Kexthyra addressed the room one final time. Gentlemen, in 72 hours we will add another world to our empire. The 48th conquest of the Zephyrian hegemony will be remembered as one of our easiest victories. The officers dispersed to prepare their units, leaving Velkan alone with his data. He stared at the hologram of Earth, watching it rotate slowly in the artificial light. The planet looked so peaceful from this distance, so harmless. But the database warnings flashed red across his screen. Class 15 Death World. Extreme caution advised. Inhabitants exhibit unprecedented survival capabilities. What his fellow officers didn't understand, what they refused to see, was that Earth hadn't just produced survivors. 8 billion humans hadn't lived to adulthood on the galaxy's most dangerous planet by luck or chance. They had survived because they were perfect killers. And in 3 days, the Zephyrian hegemony was going to learn what that meant. The first orbital bombardment began at dawn over what the humans called New York City. Squadron Commander Zelrath watched from his command ship as bright streaks of plasma rained down on the towering structures below. The buildings collapsed exactly as predicted, sending clouds of dust and debris into the atmosphere. Target eliminated, reported his weapons officer. Moving to secondary targets, Zelrath nodded with satisfaction. The human military installations had been identified and marked for destruction. Their primitive radar systems hadn't even detected the hegemony ships until the attack was already underway. Sir, called his communications officer, receiving surrender signals from the planet's surface. Already? Zelrath was surprised but pleased. Perhaps intelligence officer Velkan had been wrong about these humans after all. But as the translation systems processed the signals, Zelrath's satisfaction turned to confusion. The humans weren't surrendering. They were coordinating. Military units across the planet were sharing information, regrouping and preparing for battle. Sir, we're detecting weapons fire from the surface. The humans are shooting at our landing craft. Zelrath studied the tactical display. Red dots marked human resistance across every continent. These primitives were actually fighting back against superior technology. Prepare the landing forces, he ordered. Time to show these Death Worlders what real warriors look like. The first transport ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their energy shields deflecting the primitive projectile weapons that humans fired at them. Zelrath felt confident as he watched his troops deploy in perfect formation. Then the reports started coming in. Landing Zone Alpha reporting heavy resistance. The humans are not retreating. Landing Zone Beta requesting medical support. Multiple casualties. Landing Zone Gamma. Sir, something's wrong here. Zelrath activated the communication channel. Gamma, explain your situation. The voice that responded was strained with panic. Sir, we engaged a group of human soldiers. Standard suppression tactics, but they're not suppressing. We've hit several of them with plasma fire and they're still fighting. Impossible. Check your weapon settings. Weapons are functioning normally, sir. But these humans, one of them lost his arm to plasma fire and kept shooting. He's still shooting, sir. How is he still fighting? Zelrath felt a cold sensation in his stomach. Zephyrian soldiers would be incapacitated by far less severe injuries. The loss of a limb would send any civilized being into shock. Landing Zone Delta reporting, came another voice. We've cornered a group of human civilians in a collapsed building. They're refusing to surrender and have somehow created weapons from debris. What kind of weapons? Improvised explosives, sir. And they're using the building's structural damage to create traps. 3 of our soldiers have been killed by falling debris that the humans deliberately triggered. Zelrath switched to a broader communication channel. All landing zones report status. The responses painted a picture that defied everything in the hegemony's military manuals. Humans weren't just resisting. They were adapting. Small groups were using Earth's terrain to their advantage, creating defensive positions from destroyed buildings and natural features. Sir, his sensor operator called out, "You need to see this." The main screen shifted to show security footage from Landing Zone Alpha. A group of human soldiers had taken cover behind the wreckage of their own vehicles. Despite being heavily outnumbered and outgunned, they moved with coordination that seemed impossible for a species that had never fought together. Zelrath watched in growing amazement as wounded humans continued to fight. A female soldier with blood streaming down her face pulled an injured comrade to safety while maintaining suppressive fire. A male soldier with what appeared to be broken ribs was still throwing explosive devices at Zephyrian positions. Their tactical coordination is unlike anything in our databases, observed his tactical officer. They're communicating without electronic devices, coordinating attacks across multiple positions, and adapting to our movements faster than our computers can predict. Landing Zone Echo reporting contact with human military forces, came a new voice. Sir, these aren't like the others. They move differently. They're wearing some kind of camouflaged clothing and they seem to have been expecting us. Explain. They've prepared defensive positions, sir. Not just trenches, but complex networks using the local environment. And sir, they're not just fighting us. They're hunting us. The word hunting sent a chill through the command center. Civilized species fought battles. They didn't hunt each other like wild animals. Landing Zone Echo, clarify your last transmission. Sir, we sent a patrol into the forest to flush out the humans. The patrol hasn't reported back. We found their equipment scattered through the trees, but no bodies. It's like something came through and picked them off one by one. Zelrath pulled up the environmental data for that region. Dense forest, uneven terrain, multiple water sources. Perfect cover for primitive guerrilla warfare, but surely no match for advanced sensors and energy weapons. Have you located the human forces responsible? Negative, sir. Our sensors detect heat signatures, but when we investigate, we find nothing. It's like they're invisible. The communications channel crackled with another report. Landing Zone Foxtrot encountering unexpected resistance. The humans appear to be using biological warfare. Biological warfare? Explain immediately. They've contaminated the local water sources with something that's making our troops sick. Severe digestive problems, sir. Also, they've introduced local plant life into our positions. Some kind of irritating substance that affects our breathing. Zelrath realized the humans were using their own planet against the invaders. These weren't just defensive tactics. This was environmental warfare on a scale the hegemony had never encountered. Sir, his communications officer called urgently. We're receiving a transmission from the human forces. They want to communicate. Put it through. A human voice speaking in heavily accented but understandable galactic standard filled the command center. Zephyrian forces, this is Colonel Martinez, United States Marine Corps. You have invaded our world. You have killed our people. We are formally notifying you that you are now considered hostile combatants on Earth soil. Zelrath activated the response channel. Human military leader, you are facing the superior forces of the Zephyrian hegemony. Surrender now and your people will be treated according to galactic conventions. The human's laughter was cold and humorless. Commander, you don't understand. This is our world. We know every mountain, every forest, every desert. You're not invading a planet. You're walking into our home. Your primitive weapons are no match for our technology. Maybe not, the human admitted. But you're not fighting our technology. You're fighting us. And we've been fighting this planet for millions of years. We've survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and disasters that would wipe out entire civilizations. The transmission paused, then continued. You want to know what makes us dangerous? We don't fight fair. We don't follow your rules. And we never, ever give up. The communication ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Sir, the tactical officer said quietly. Casualty reports from all landing zones. We've lost 14% of our ground forces in the first 6 hours. 14%. In a single engagement against primitives. Zelrath had never seen losses like that except against advanced civilizations with comparable technology. Landing Zone Alpha reporting new contact. Sir, we're observing human juveniles in the combat zone. Juveniles? Their young are participating in combat. Affirmative, sir. Human children appear to be serving as messengers, scouts, and supply runners. They're moving through areas we've secured and somehow avoiding our sensors. Zelrath stared at the tactical display. The hegemony's rules of warfare specifically prohibited involving non-combatants, especially the young. It was a fundamental principle of civilized conflict, but these humans weren't civilized. They were something else entirely. All units, he broadcast across all channels, establish defensive perimeters and hold positions. Request immediate reinforcements from the fleet. As he ended the transmission, Zelrath finally understood what intelligence officer Velkan had been trying to tell them. These humans weren't just tough survivors, they were predators, and the Zephyrian hegemony had just entered their hunting ground. Admiral Kexthyra stood before the tactical display in her command center, watching red indicators spread across every continent of Earth. 2 weeks had passed since the invasion began, and nothing was going according to plan. Admiral, her aide approached nervously. The latest casualty reports from the surface. Kexthyra didn't look away from the display. How many? 37% of our ground forces are either dead, missing, or medically unfit for combat. The number hit her like a physical blow. In 2 weeks, these primitive humans had eliminated more than a third of her invasion force. Veterans who had conquered dozens of worlds were being systematically destroyed by a species that shouldn't have posed any threat. Where is Intelligence Officer Velkan? She demanded. In his quarters, Admiral. He's been analyzing human combat footage since the invasion began. Minutes later, Velkan entered the command center carrying multiple data pads. His appearance had deteriorated dramatically over the past 2 weeks. His scales had lost their color and his hands shook constantly. Admiral, he said quietly, I've been studying their tactics. We're not fighting an army. We're fighting an entire species that's been trained for war since birth. Kexthyra finally turned from the display. Explain. Velkan activated one of his data pads, projecting combat footage onto the main screen. This is from Landing Zone Gamma. Watch carefully. The footage showed a group of human soldiers moving through a destroyed city. But they weren't moving like any military force the hegemony had encountered. They flowed through the terrain like water, using every piece of debris, every shadow, every angle of cover with perfect efficiency. Notice how they move, Velkan pointed out. No wasted motion, no hesitation. They're reading the environment and each other's actions without any electronic communication. The scene shifted to show a confrontation between Zephyrian troops and the humans. What followed defied every principle of civilized warfare. They're not following standard military doctrine, Velkan continued. Watch this human female. On screen, a wounded human woman crawled behind enemy lines while her comrades provided distraction. Despite obvious injuries, she placed explosive devices under Zephyrian equipment before retreating. She should be incapacitated, Admiral Kexthyra observed. That level of blood loss would kill any Zephyrian. That's the point, Admiral. These humans aren't just tough. They're running on biological systems that have been refined by millions of years of survival pressure. Pain doesn't stop them. Injury doesn't stop them. Fear doesn't stop them. Velkan brought up another video file. This is from the mountain regions. Our forces encountered what we thought was a small human military unit. The footage showed Zephyrian soldiers advancing through a forested mountain slope. Everything seemed quiet until the humans struck. But these weren't regular soldiers. They moved like the forest itself, appearing from positions that sensors had marked as empty. How are they avoiding our detection systems? Admiral Kexthyra asked. They're not using technology to hide, Admiral. They're using skills. These humans know how to mask their heat signatures, how to move without disturbing the environment, how to blend with natural terrain. They've been hunting the deadliest predators on this planet for thousands of years. The screen showed Zephyrian soldiers being eliminated one by one, picked off by humans who seemed to materialize from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. Our soldiers are trained for technological warfare, Velkan explained. Energy shields, plasma weapons, sensor networks. But these humans are fighting with instincts that our species never developed. Admiral HFY studied the footage with growing horror. Show me more. The next video came from an urban combat zone. Human civilians were working alongside military forces to set up defensive positions. But what shocked the Admiral was watching human children, some barely adolescent, serving as scouts and messengers in active combat zones. Their entire society is militarized, Velkan observed. Not by government order, but by evolutionary necessity. Every human learns survival skills from childhood because their planet demands it. Admiral. An urgent voice called from across the command center. Priority transmission from Squadron Commander Zelrath. Zelrath's image appeared on the communication screen. His usually pristine uniform was torn and dirty, and his left arm was bandaged. Admiral, I'm reporting the loss of landing zone Echo. Lost? To enemy action? Overrun, ma'am. The humans coordinated a night attack using tactics we've never seen. They struck simultaneously from multiple directions using the local wildlife as cover. Wildlife? Yes, Admiral. They've somehow trained or directed the local predators to assist in their attacks. Our sensors detected large moving heat signatures, but when we investigated, we found packs of Earth animals moving through our positions. Admiral HFY felt her understanding of warfare crumbling. You're telling me they've weaponized their planet's ecosystem? That's exactly what I'm telling you. And Admiral, we've captured some of their equipment. These humans have been reverse engineering our technology. In 2 weeks, they've figured out how to modify our own weapons to use against us. Velkan stepped forward. Admiral, I've been monitoring their communications. They're not just defending anymore. They're preparing for offensive operations. Offensive operations? Against us? Yes, ma'am. They've captured several of our transport ships and they're studying them. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to take the fight into space. The communication channel crackled again. Admiral, this is Captain Sarah Chen, United States Special Forces. Everyone in the command center froze. A human was communicating directly with their flagship. Human? Admiral HFY responded. How did you access our communication system? We've been listening to your transmission since day one, the human replied calmly. Your encryption is good, but we've had time to work on it. We're fast learners. What do you want? I want to make you an offer, Admiral. Withdraw your forces from Earth and we'll let you leave. The audacity of the statement was staggering. A primitive species offering terms to the hegemony's most powerful fleet. And if we refuse? Captain Chen's voice remained steady and professional. Then we'll kill every single one of your soldiers on this planet. Then we'll take your ships. Then we'll come find you. You're threatening the Zephyrian hegemony? I'm not threatening anyone, Admiral. I'm explaining what's going to happen. You invaded our home. You killed our people. Now you're going to learn what happens when you hunt predators. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Admiral HFY turned to her tactical officer. Analysis. Can they carry out these threats? The officer consulted his displays nervously. Admiral, at their current rate of advancement, they'll have functional spacecraft within weeks. They've demonstrated the ability to reverse engineer our technology faster than our own engineers thought possible. And their military capabilities? Ma'am, they're eliminating our forces faster than we can reinforce them. Each engagement shows improved tactics and equipment. They're learning from every battle. Velkan approached the Admiral with his final report. Admiral, I've completed my analysis of human psychology and social structure. This species doesn't just fight to win battles. They fight to eliminate threats permanently. Meaning? Meaning they won't stop at defending their planet. Once they have the capability, they'll hunt down every Zephyrian involved in this invasion. They'll track us across the galaxy if necessary. Admiral HFY stared at the tactical display showing Earth. 2 weeks ago, it had seemed like an easy conquest. Now she was beginning to understand that they hadn't invaded a planet. They had awakened something that was going to destroy them all. Intelligence Officer Velkan sat in his quarters, surrounded by data screens showing the complete collapse of the hegemony invasion. 3 weeks had passed since the first landing, and the situation had reversed completely. The hunters had become the hunted. His door chimed and Master Sergeant Rodriguez of the United States Marine Corps entered. The human moved with casual confidence as if he belonged on the alien flagship. Behind him, 2 more humans carried captured Zephyrian equipment. Good morning, Velkan, Rodriguez said in perfect galactic standard. Thanks for agreeing to this meeting. Velkan stared at the human in amazement. How did you get aboard this ship? Rodriguez smiled, showing white teeth that somehow looked predatory. We've been here for 6 hours. Your security systems are good, but we've gotten better at dealing with them. The realization hit Velkin like a physical blow. You've infiltrated our flagship. Infiltrated is a strong word. We prefer visited. We're not here to hurt anyone. We want to talk. Velkin activated his emergency alert, but nothing happened. Rodriguez noticed his confusion. We've temporarily disabled your communication system. Don't worry, we'll fix it before we leave. We just want to have a private conversation. What do you want from me? Rodriguez sat down across from Velkin, his posture relaxed but alert. You're the one who warned them about us, aren't you? You tried to tell your commanders what they were getting into. Yes, Velkin admitted. They wouldn't listen. That's what we figured. You see, we've been monitoring your communications since the invasion began. We know you understood the danger better than anyone else in your fleet. Rodriguez gestured to one of his companions, who activated a portable display device. The screen showed tactical maps of Earth with detailed information about human resistance activities. We want to show you something, Rodriguez continued. These are our actual capabilities. What your people have been fighting is maybe 10% of what we can do. The display showed vast underground networks connecting major cities, hidden military installations that hegemony sensors had never detected, and weapon systems that made captured alien technology look primitive. 10%? Velkin whispered. We've been holding back, Rodriguez explained. See, when someone invades your home, you have two choices. You can fight them off, or you can make sure they never want to come back. We chose option 2. The screen shifted to show hegemony forces being systematically hunted across the planet. But these weren't random attacks. Human forces were deliberately targeting specific units, specific individuals with surgical precision. Your squadron commander Zelrath, Rodriguez said casually. Nice guy. We had dinner with him last night. Dinner? Well, he was unconscious for most of it. But we wanted to learn about Zephyrian culture, military structure, homeworlds. He was very informative. Velkin felt terror creeping up his spine. You captured him? Temporarily. He's back with his unit now, probably wondering why he has gaps in his memory. We're not interested in taking prisoners, Velkin. We're interested in understanding our enemies. The human leaned forward, his expression becoming serious. Your people made a mistake. You thought you were invading a primitive world. What you actually did was give us a reason to leave our planet. Leave your planet? Rodriguez nodded. For thousands of years we've been stuck on Earth, fighting each other in our environment. You've shown us that there are other worlds out there, other challenges, other threats to eliminate. The display changed again, showing captured hegemony ships being modified by human engineers. The work was happening faster than should have been possible. How are you advancing so quickly? Velkin asked. Because we're not really advancing, Rodriguez replied. We're just applying what we already know. Every human grows up learning to adapt, to improvise, to overcome obstacles. Your technology is impressive, but it's just another obstacle. The screen showed human children working alongside adults to disassemble alien equipment. Even the young ones moved with the same efficient confidence as the adults. Your entire species participates in warfare, Velkin observed. Our entire species participates in survival, Rodriguez corrected. War is just survival against thinking opponents instead of natural disasters. A new image appeared. Human forces coordinating with Earth's wildlife to track down Zephyrian patrols. Wolves, bears, and even birds were serving as scouts and early warning systems. Your planet's ecosystem is helping you fight, Velkin said in amazement. We've been part of this ecosystem for millions of years. We understand how everything connects, how everything works together. Your soldiers are invaders here. The whole planet knows it. Rodriguez stood up and walked to the viewport showing Earth below. You want to know what makes us really dangerous, Velkin? It's not our physical abilities or our weapons. It's our perspective. Your perspective? We don't see enemies as problems to be solved. We see them as threats to be eliminated permanently. When a species threatens our survival, we don't just defeat them, we make sure they can never threaten us again. The display showed footage from around the galaxy, images of other worlds that had been part of the hegemony. These are your colony worlds, aren't they? Velkin nodded numbly. We've been studying them, learning about your infrastructure, your defenses, your population centers. When we finish here, we're going to visit each one. You're planning to invade hegemony space? Rodriguez turned back to face him. We're planning to make sure the Zephyrian hegemony never threatens Earth again. That means removing your ability to project military force anywhere in the galaxy. The implications were staggering. You're talking about the complete destruction of our civilization. We're talking about removing a threat, Rodriguez said simply. Your people made the choice to invade our world. Now you get to live with the consequences. Velkan pulled up his own intelligence files, showing them to the human. Do you understand the scale of what you're proposing? The hegemony controls hundreds of worlds, commands fleets of thousands of ships, rules over billions of beings. Rodriguez studied the data with professional interest. Impressive. That's a lot of targets. Targets? Every military installation, every weapons factory, every command center. Once we've mapped them all, we'll eliminate them systematically. The human's casual tone while discussing galactic warfare was more terrifying than any threat could have been. Velkan, Rodriguez said gently, your people aren't evil. Misguided, maybe. Arrogant, definitely, but we understand that you were just following orders. That's why we're giving you this chance. What chance?
Help us end this quickly.
Provide intelligence on hegemony military capabilities, locations of key installations, defensive strategies. Help us make this efficient. And if I refuse? Rodriguez shrugged. Then we do it the hard way. We hunt down every piece of information we need, eliminate every obstacle we encounter, and turn this into a war of extinction instead of a surgical removal of military threats. The human moved toward the door, then paused. Oh, one more thing. We've been in contact with some of the species your hegemony has conquered. Turns out they're very interested in independence. We might have some allies when we start visiting your worlds. Velkan felt the last of his hope disappearing. You've been building a coalition against us. We've been talking to people who have reasons to help us. Funny how many species don't like being conquered. Rodriguez and his team prepared to leave. Think about our offer, Velkan. You have 72 hours to decide. After that, we start doing this the hard way. As the humans left his quarters, Velkan stared at the intelligence reports spread across his desk. Every page confirmed the same terrifying truth. The Zephyrian hegemony hadn't just failed to conquer Earth. They had given humanity a reason to conquer them. Admiral Kex Thyra stood in the ruins of what had once been the hegemony's primary command center on Earth. Around her, human soldiers moved with quiet efficiency, cataloging captured equipment and securing the facility. 5 weeks had passed since the invasion began, and it was over. General Patricia Hayes, commander of human forces in this sector, approached through the debris. She had been fighting continuously for 35 days, coordinating global resistance efforts while personally leading combat operations. To Admiral Kex Thyra's exhausted eyes, the human woman looked as fresh as if she had just awakened from a peaceful sleep. Admiral, General Hayes said politely, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Kex Thyra looked around at her remaining officers. Squadron Commander Zelrath stood nearby, his arm in a sling and his eyes holding the hollow look of someone who had seen too much. Intelligence Officer Velkan clutched his data pads with trembling hands, while General Thexmore sat on a piece of rubble, staring at nothing. You said you wanted to discuss surrender terms, Kex Thyra said. General Hayes nodded. Actually, I want to help you understand what happened here. I think you deserve that much. The human gestured to the destruction around them. 5 weeks ago, your forces landed on Earth expecting an easy conquest. You had superior technology, overwhelming numbers, and experience conquering dozens of worlds. You should have won. But we didn't, Kex Thyra said bitterly. No, you didn't. And I want to explain why. General Hayes walked to a section of wall that displayed a map of Earth. You saw our planet as a hostile environment that happened to contain a primitive species. What you didn't understand is that we aren't separate from this environment. We are this environment. She pointed to various locations on the map. Every mountain, every forest, every desert, every ocean. We know them all intimately because we've been fighting them for survival our entire evolutionary history. Admiral Kex Thyra studied the human's face. Despite weeks of constant warfare, General Hayes showed no signs of fatigue, stress, or trauma that would be visible in any civilized species. You've been fighting for over a month without rest, Kex Thyra observed. How is that possible? Because we're built for it, Hayes replied simply. Admiral, your species evolved on a peaceful world. You developed intelligence, technology, and civilization without constant existential threats. You're efficient, organized, and logical. The human smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill us every single day. We developed intelligence as a weapon, technology as a tool for survival, and civilization as a way to coordinate our defense against everything that wanted to eat us. General Hayes moved to another section of the map. When your forces landed here, you thought you were fighting a military. You were actually fighting an entire species that had spent millions of years perfecting the art of war. Perfecting? Zelrath spoke for the first time. You fight like animals. We fight like predators, Hayes corrected. And that's what you never understood. You see, Admiral, your intelligence officer tried to warn you about something that your database is called a Class 15 death world. Velkan straightened up, finally finding his voice. I tried to tell them. You did, Hayes agreed. But I don't think even you understood what that classification really meant. The human pulled out a device that projected a holographic display. It showed data about various worlds throughout the galaxy, each marked with a classification number. Your databases classify worlds based on how dangerous they are to most galactic species, Hayes explained. Class 1 worlds are garden paradises. Class 5 worlds have some environmental challenges. Class 10 worlds are considered barely habitable. She manipulated the display to focus on Earth. Class 15 is the highest classification in your system. It represents a world so hostile that most species couldn't survive there for days, let alone evolve there. Admiral Kexithira studied the data. But you not only survived there, you thrived. We didn't just thrive, Admiral. We became the apex predators. Every dangerous species on our planet, we hunted them. Every environmental challenge, we adapted to it. Every natural disaster, we learned to survive it. General Hayes changed the display to show footage from the recent fighting. When you invaded Earth, you weren't just fighting our military. You were fighting the end result of millions of years of evolutionary warfare. The footage showed human soldiers moving through environments that would kill most aliens within minutes. They operated in extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, and gravitational conditions that exceeded safety limits for hegemony equipment. Your soldiers are trained and equipped for technological warfare, Hayes continued. Our soldiers are weapons that were forged by the most dangerous environment in known space. Admiral Kexithira watched the footage with growing understanding. You weren't using advanced tactics. You were using instincts, exactly. Every human is born with millions of years of evolutionary experience in warfare, survival, and adaptation. Your soldiers had to learn how to fight. We had to learn how not to. The display changed again, showing captured hegemony technology being modified by human engineers. But now Kexithira could see what she had missed before. The humans weren't slowly figuring out alien technology. They were adapting it as quickly as they encountered it. You reverse-engineered our technology in weeks, she said. We approached it the same way our ancestors approached every challenge, Hayes replied. We studied it, we experimented with it, we adapted it to our needs. The only difference is that this time the challenge was understanding your machines instead of surviving an ice age. General Thexmore looked up from his silent contemplation. What happens now? General Hayes's expression became serious. Now you have a choice. We've captured enough of your technology to build our own spacecraft. We've learned enough about your military structure to plan effective attacks against your homeworlds. And we've made contact with other species that your hegemony has conquered. The implications were clear. You're prepared to take this war to our territory. We're prepared to end the threat your empire represents, Hayes said simply. The question is whether you want that to happen through negotiation or through force. Admiral Kexithira looked around at her defeated officers. What are your terms? Complete withdrawal from Earth, dismantling of your military infrastructure, independence for all species currently under hegemony control, and a guarantee that no Zephyrian force will ever again threaten any world in this galaxy. You're demanding the end of our civilization, Zelrath protested. We're demanding the end of your empire, Hayes corrected. Your people can live peacefully on your own worlds. You just can't rule over others anymore. Admiral Kexithira considered the terms. And if we refuse? General Hayes gestured toward the window, where human-modified hegemony ships were visible in the distance. Then we hunt down every military installation, every command center, and every weapons facility in hegemony space. We dismantle your empire by force. The human's tone remained calm and professional. But there was an absolute certainty in her voice that was more frightening than any threat. "You would really destroy our entire civilization? Admiral," Hayes said gently. "You invaded our world. You killed our people. You thought you could conquer us because we seemed primitive and weak." She walked to the window and looked up at the sky. "What you didn't understand is that we're not just another species you could add to your empire. We're what happens when evolution runs out of other ways to make a species dangerous." Admiral Kexathyra followed her gaze upward, where Earth's moon hung in the afternoon sky. Soon human ships would be traveling past that moon, carrying war to distant stars. "How long do we have to decide?" 72 hours, Hayes replied. "After that, we start building the fleet that will end the Zephyrian hegemony forever." As Admiral Kexathyra looked at the human general, she finally understood what Intelligence Officer Velkan had been trying to tell them 5 weeks ago. Earth wasn't just a Class 15 death world because of its environment. It was classified as a Class 15 death world because it had produced humanity. And now, for the first time in their history, humans had a reason to leave their world and bring their particular brand of survival to the rest of the galaxy. The Zephyrian hegemony had thought they were conquering a planet. Instead, they had awakened death itself.
Commander Lisa Wright stared at the strange symbols dancing across her screen. She blinked twice, then turned to her communications officer. "Is this some kind of joke, Lieutenant?" "No, ma'am. The signal came through on all channels simultaneously. It's being broadcast from somewhere beyond Neptune's orbit." Lisa ran her fingers through her short brown hair. In her 15 years with the Earth Defense Fleet, she had never encountered anything like this. The signal had appeared without warning, bypassing Earth's early detection systems. "Can we translate it?" she asked. Before the lieutenant could answer, the symbols on the screen rearranged themselves into English. The message was simple. "Greetings, people of Earth. The Galactic Council requests dialogue." Within hours, every major government and military installation on the planet had received the same message. Emergency meetings were called. Defense systems were placed on high alert, and Commander Lisa Wright found herself sitting in the Oval Office, explaining the situation to President Alan Grayson. So they just introduced themselves. The president looked skeptical. "Yes, sir. After the initial contact, they sent technical specifications for a communication device that would allow for real-time conversations. Our engineers confirmed the technology is far beyond our current capabilities, but the design principles seem sound." President Grayson turned to General Paul Martinez, who sat stiffly in his chair. "And what's your assessment, General?" "It could be a trap, Mr. President. We build their device, and maybe it's a weapon or a way to track our technological capabilities. I recommend caution." The president nodded, then looked at a thin man sitting quietly in the corner. "Sam, you've been quiet. What's your take?" Sam Harris, Earth's most experienced diplomat, leaned forward. "If they wanted to harm us, they could have done so already. The fact that they're reaching out suggests they follow some diplomatic protocols. I think we should respond." Over the next week, scientists and engineers worked around the clock to build the communication device. When they activated it, a three-dimensional image appeared in the center of the Joint Chiefs conference room. It showed a tall, slender being with iridescent skin and 4 arms. "I am Vrith, Overseer of Diplomatic Integration for the Galactic Council. We have been observing your world for some time." President Grayson stepped forward. "I am Alan Grayson, President of the United States, speaking on behalf of Earth. Why have you contacted us now?" The alien made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "Your species has reached a critical development stage. Your recent advances in quantum computing and fusion energy have brought you to our attention. The Council believes it is time to establish formal relations." "And what would these relations entail?" Sam Harris asked. "We invite a small delegation to visit our nearest diplomatic station. There we can discuss Earth's potential membership in the Council and the benefits that would bring." After the communication ended, the room erupted in debate. Some advisors saw a tremendous opportunity. Others warned of unknown dangers. "I don't trust them," General Martinez said. They've been watching us without our knowledge. What else haven't they told us? But think of the possibilities, argued the science advisor. Access to interstellar travel, advanced medicine, clean energy. In the end, President Grayson made his decision. We'll send a delegation, but it will include military personnel and scientists, not just diplomats. Sam, you'll lead the team. 3 weeks later, Sam Harris stood on the observation deck of Earth's newest spacecraft, watching his home planet shrink in the distance. With him were Dr. Grace Murphy, a brilliant xenobiologist, and Colonel Jack Peterson, a veteran Special Forces officer who made no secret of his distrust for their alien hosts. As their ship approached the meeting point in the Kuiper Belt, a massive structure appeared, gleaming like a silver snowflake against the blackness of space. "My God," whispered Grace. "It's beautiful." "Maybe," Jack said, checking his sidearm discreetly. "But beautiful things can still be deadly." Sam said nothing. He simply watched as the alien station grew larger in their viewport, wondering if he was leading humanity toward a new golden age, or its greatest mistake. The human ship docked with a soft thud. Sam Harris took a deep breath and straightened his tie. This was history in the making, and he felt the weight of it on his shoulders. "Remember," he told Grace and Jack, "we represent all of humanity now. Let's be cautious but open-minded." The airlock doors slid open. A blast of sweet-smelling air greeted them. 2 beings waited on the other side. One looked almost like a giant insect with multiple limbs and compound eyes. The other was humanoid but with skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. "Welcome to Council Station Zeta," said the color-shifting being. "I am Vrith, whom you spoke with earlier. This is Siktal of the Xari. We will be your primary liaisons." Sam stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for your invitation. We are honored to be here." Vrith led them through corridors that curved and twisted in ways that made Jack feel slightly dizzy. They passed creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in the air. Others moved on many legs. One being seemed to be made entirely of crystal. "How many species are part of this council?" Grace asked, her scientist's curiosity overtaking her initial fear. "Currently, we have 112 member species with full voting rights," Siktal answered, his mandibles clicking. 27 more have observer status. Humans would begin as observers, naturally. They entered a vast chamber. It was circular with rising tiers of seats. In the center was a platform with a podium. Beings of all descriptions filled the seats, their quiet conversations creating a buzz that reminded Sam of a beehive. "This is the lesser chamber," Vrith explained. "The full council meets only once per standard year. This body handles day-to-day matters." A bell-like sound rang out. The chamber grew quiet. "Esteemed representatives," Vrith announced, "I present the delegation from Earth." All eyes turned to the humans. Some looked curious, others wary. A few seemed almost hostile. A tall, spindly creature rose from a seat of honor. "I am Grand Overseer Zunlak. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome Earth's representatives. Your presence here marks a significant moment. For eons, the Council has maintained peace among the stars through cooperation and shared wisdom." Sam stepped forward. "We thank you for this welcome. Earth is eager to learn from the Council and share our own unique perspectives." The Grand Overseer's face was unreadable. Indeed, every species brings something valuable. But every species must also understand their place in the greater order. The Council exists to ensure that technological and military development does not outpace ethical growth. Jack leaned close to Sam and whispered, "Did that sound like a warning to you?" Sam ignored him and continued, "We look forward to understanding this greater order. Humanity values peace, but we also value our independence and right to self-determination." A murmur spread through the chamber. The Grand Overseer's long fingers tapped against the podium. "Of course, all member species maintain their unique cultures, but certain standards must be met and limitations accepted. This protects everyone. The meeting continued with formal speeches. After 2 hours, Vrith led them to their quarters. The rooms were comfortable, but clearly designed with different body types in mind. The beds were too low, the chairs oddly shaped. Later, as they ate food provided by their hosts, the human team discussed their impressions. "Did you notice how they reacted when you mentioned independence?" Grace asked. Sam nodded. "They're cautious about us." "That's natural." Jack wasn't convinced. "Or they're hiding something." When I asked about their defensive capabilities, they changed the subject pretty quickly. "It's just diplomatic talk," Sam said. "We need to be patient. These things take time." Grace looked out at the stars through their viewport. "I got to speak with one of the HFY scientists. They seemed nervous around us." "Nervous?" Sam asked. "Yes," Grace replied. "Almost like they were afraid. I can't explain it, but I felt like we were being watched the whole time." Jack checked his communication device. "That's because we probably are. I found 3 different signals scanning our equipment since we arrived." Sam frowned. "Let's not jump to conclusions. We've only just arrived. Tomorrow we begin formal talks, and hopefully things will become clearer." But as they prepared for sleep in their strange beds, each of them wondered what they had gotten themselves into, and what the Council really wanted from humanity. 2 weeks had passed since the humans arrived at the station. Sam felt like he was running in circles. Every meeting ended with vague promises of future discussions on technology sharing. Every question about council governance received long, empty answers that explained nothing. Sam sat in their common room, rubbing his tired eyes. Another day, another meeting where nothing gets done. Jack looked up from his tablet. "They're stalling. Question is, why?" "Maybe this is just how they operate," Sam suggested. "Different cultures, different pace." Grace entered the room, her face flushed with excitement. "I think I made a real connection today. One of the junior HFY scientists, Kirik, actually talked to me like a normal person instead of reading from a script." "What did you learn?" Sam asked. "Mostly about HFY biology. But Kirik seemed eager to meet again tomorrow." Grace smiled. "It's nice to find someone who doesn't treat us like we might explode at any moment." Over the next few days, Grace spent more time with Kirik. They discussed science, culture, and life on their respective worlds. Slowly, Kirik began to trust Grace. Meanwhile, Jack tried to send a secure update to Earth, but found his communications were being rerouted. "They're monitoring everything we send," he told Sam. "I set up a test message with markers that would show if it was intercepted. It was definitely read before it reached Earth." Sam frowned. "That's not a good sign. I'll bring it up with Frith tomorrow." But before Sam could confront Frith, Grace burst into their quarters, her face pale. She had just returned from meeting with Kirik. "You won't believe what I found out," she whispered, checking to make sure they weren't being monitored. "Kirik took a huge risk telling me this." Sam and Jack leaned in close. "The Council has a classification system for species. Humans are listed as Type 4 volatile. That's their designation for species they consider dangerous and unpredictable." Jack's jaw tightened. "So they see us as a threat." "It's worse," Grace continued. "Kirik said the Council never had any intention of treating Earth as an equal. These talks are just an assessment to decide how to handle us." "Handle us?" Sam repeated. Kirik wasn't clear, but implied that Type 4 species are usually contained rather than integrated. "The Council is worried about our rate of technological advancement. Apparently, we've developed faster than any species they've encountered." Sam paced the room. "I need to confront Frith with this." "Are you sure that's wise?" Jack asked. "If we reveal what we know, Kirik could be in danger." "We can't just pretend everything is fine," Sam argued. "We need to know their real intentions." The next day, Sam requested a private meeting with Frith. They met in a small conference room. "Council Overseer, we've been here for nearly 3 weeks, yet we've made no real progress. I have to wonder if these talks are being conducted in good faith. Vrith's skin rippled with blues and purples. I assure you, Diplomat Harris, the Council takes these discussions very seriously. Then perhaps you can explain why Earth is classified as a Type 4 volatile species, and what exactly that means for our future relations. Vrith's colors darkened. Where did you hear this term? Does it matter? Is it true? Vrith stood very still. Classification systems are complex administrative tools. They don't define our approach to diplomacy. That's not an answer, Sam pressed. The Council has maintained peace for thousands of years by carefully managing the integration of new species. Some require more guidance than others. Guidance or control? Sam asked. Vrith's colors swirled. Both concepts are merely different perspectives on the same reality. The Council exists to prevent conflict and ensure stable development. By containing species you deem threatening. By protecting the galactic community from potential disruption. Vrith moved toward the door. I believe this discussion has become unproductive. Perhaps we should continue tomorrow when emotions are less heightened. Back in their quarters, Sam told Jack and Grace about the meeting. So they didn't deny it, Jack said. No, Sam replied. And I think we need to prepare for the possibility that these talks aren't leading where we hoped. Grace looked worried. What do we do now? We keep our eyes open, Sam said firmly. And we start making plans of our own. Another month passed. The human delegation grew more frustrated each day. Sam tried every diplomatic approach he knew. He was polite. He was firm. He was open. He was reserved. Nothing worked. The Council members continued to smile their alien smiles and say nothing of substance. Then, without warning, everything changed. Sam, Grace, and Jack were summoned to the Grand Chamber. Unlike previous meetings, this one included all the senior Council representatives. Grand Overseer Zunlak sat in the center chair, looking down at them from his raised platform. Humans of Earth, Zunlak began. The Council has completed its assessment of your application for relations. We are prepared to offer terms. Sam straightened his back. Finally, some progress. The Council recognizes Earth's potential. Zunlak continued. We offer the following. Limited technology transfers in the areas of medicine and agriculture. In exchange, Earth must agree to certain reasonable limitations. Jack tensed beside Sam. Here it comes, he thought. Zunlak's assistant handed Sam a data tablet. As he read, Sam's face grew pale. The reasonable limitations included strict caps on Earth's military development, restrictions on space exploration beyond the solar system, limits on population growth, and regular inspections of Earth's technological facilities. The document also mentioned corrective measures that could be taken if Earth violated these terms. This isn't a diplomatic agreement, Sam said quietly. This is a surrender document. Zunlak's expression didn't change. We prefer to see it as a guided integration plan for the safety of all species, including humans. Sam looked at his teammates. Grace seemed shocked. Jack's hand had moved closer to his sidearm. We need time to consult with our government, Sam said carefully. Vrith stepped forward. Of course, but the Council requires an answer within 48 hours. The terms are not negotiable. Back in their quarters, the team established a secure link to Earth. They used a communication device Jack had kept hidden from the Council's scanners. President Grayson's face appeared on the screen. When Sam explained the situation, the president's expression darkened. It's worse than we thought, Sam concluded. This isn't a diplomatic mission anymore. It's an ultimatum. I see, President Grayson said. I'm calling an emergency meeting of world leaders. In the meantime, Diane Foster from Intelligence has something to share with you. Diane appeared on screen. Her usually neat hair was messy, as if she had been working nonstop. 2 days ago, we detected multiple alien devices in Earth orbit and throughout the solar system. They're small, stealthy, and appear to be monitoring stations. They've probably been there for years. Jack smashed his fist against the wall. "They've been spying on us all along." "That's not all," Diane continued. "We've analyzed the technology sharing offer. The medical advances they're offering are mostly things we're close to developing ourselves. Nothing game-changing. It's like throwing scraps to keep us quiet while they control our development." President Grayson returned to the screen. "I want you all to understand something. Whatever decision we make, it affects the entire human race. If we accept these terms, we're giving up our independence. If we reject them..." He didn't finish the thought. "They've given us 48 hours, Sam reminded him. "I'll contact you in 24, the president replied. "Stay safe." When the communication ended, the three humans sat in silence. "What do you think Earth will decide?" Grace finally asked. "I don't know," Sam answered honestly. "But whatever happens, I think the Council has already shown their true colors." Jack checked his weapon one more time. "And those colors aren't friendly." That night, none of them slept well. Each lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the next day would bring. Sam kept thinking about the corrective measures mentioned in the document. Grace worried about Kirik and whether their friendship had put the alien scientist in danger. Jack ran through escape scenarios in his head, calculating their odds if things went bad. All three knew that tomorrow would change the course of human history forever. The question was, how? 23 hours later, the secure link with Earth activated again. President Grayson looked tired but determined. "We've reached a decision," he told the delegation. It wasn't easy. There were strong views on both sides. Sam nodded. He could imagine the heated debates that must have taken place. "What's our response?" he asked. "We're declining their offer," President Grayson said firmly. "Earth will not accept any agreement that limits our sovereignty or future development." Jack let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Grace bit her lip, looking both relieved and worried. "The Council won't take this well," Sam warned. "We know. That's why we're ordering you to return immediately after delivering our answer. The ship that brought you there is being prepared for immediate departure." Sam considered this. "Sir, with respect, a hasty exit might send the wrong message. It could look like we're running away in fear." President Grayson frowned. "Your safety is our priority." "I understand, but I think we should leave in a calm, dignified manner. Show them we're not afraid." After some discussion, the president agreed. They would deliver Earth's answer and then announce their departure, giving the Council no reason to claim humans had acted improperly. The next day, the human delegation entered the Grand Chamber. All Council members were present. The room felt tense, as if everyone already knew what was coming. Grand Overseer Zunlak looked down at them. "Humans of Earth, have you reached a decision?" Sam stepped forward. In his hand was a small data tablet containing Earth's official response. But he didn't need to read it. The words were burned into his mind. "Grand Overseer, members of the Council, Earth has carefully considered your offer. We appreciate the time and consideration given to our world." Sam paused, looking around the chamber. "However, Earth must respectfully decline membership at this time." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Several council members rose to their feet. Vrith's skin turned a deep, angry red. Zunlak's eyes narrowed to slits. "This is unprecedented," one council member shouted. "They cannot refuse," yelled another. Zunlak raised his hand for silence. When he spoke, his voice was cold. "Perhaps humans do not fully understand the implications of this decision." "We understand perfectly," Sam replied. "Earth chooses to remain independent. We hope to maintain peaceful relations with the Council and its members. We will now take our leave and return to our planet." "This is most unwise," Zunlak said quietly. "The Council's offer was generous considering your species' volatile nature." Jack stepped forward. "Our volatile nature is called freedom where we come from." Sam put a hand on Jack's arm, silently asking him to step back. "We have made our decision. We will be departing within 6 hours." As they walked out, The chamber behind them dissolved into chaos. Back in their quarters, they quickly packed their few belongings. "I need to see Kirik before we leave," Grace said suddenly. "That's not a good idea," Jack warned. "I have to. I owe Kirik that much." The information helped us make the right decision. Before Sam could stop her, Grace slipped out. She returned 30 minutes later, her face pale. "What happened?" Sam asked. "Kirik says we need to be careful. Some council members are already talking about a preventative intervention. They're afraid of what Earth might become without their control." Jack checked his weapon. "Let's get to our ship before they decide to keep us here as leverage." As they made their way to the docking bay, they noticed more security personnel in the corridors. None tried to stop them, but all watched with cold eyes. Their ship was waiting, engines humming. The human pilot looked nervous. "Sir, the station's weapon systems have powered up. Not pointing at us, but definitely active." Sam nodded grimly. "Let's go home. Quickly, but with dignity." As their ship undocked and turned toward distant Earth, Sam wondered if they were leaving as the Council's newest enemies. Only time would tell if they had made the right choice. The human ship had barely cleared the docking area when a bright flash of energy shot past their port side. "What was that?" Sam demanded. The pilot's hands flew over the controls. "Energy weapon discharge from the station. They claimed it was an accidental systems test." Jack snorted. "Sure it was. Can we go faster?" Grace asked, looking back at the silver station growing smaller behind them. "Setting maximum speed now," the pilot replied. "We'll be in jump range in 10 minutes." Those 10 minutes felt like hours. Everyone held their breath, watching the sensors for any sign of pursuit. When they finally jumped into faster-than-light travel, the entire crew let out a collective sigh of relief. 3 days later, they reached Earth. Their ship was met by a military escort that guided them to a secure landing facility. President Grayson was waiting. "Welcome home," he said, shaking each of their hands. "The world needs to hear your first-hand account." Over the next weeks, Sam, Grace, and Jack briefed world leaders on everything they had learned. Earth began preparing for possible conflict. Military budgets increased. Scientists worked overtime on defensive technologies. Space monitoring stations were built to watch for council ships. "We're not looking for a fight," President Grayson told the United Nations, "but we will be ready if one comes to us." Months passed. Life on Earth continued. Some people began to wonder if the council threat had been overblown. Maybe the aliens had decided to leave Earth alone after all. Jack didn't think so. He had joined a special task force designed to counter alien technology. Every day, he pushed his team harder. "The council is patient," he warned. "They think in terms of decades, not weeks. They're waiting for us to let our guard down." 1 year after the delegation's return, Jack's sister Emma sent him a message from Mars Colony, where she worked as a terraforming engineer. "Strange readings on our long-range sensors," her message said. "Probably nothing, but thought you should know." Jack immediately reported this to his superiors. Extra monitoring satellites were dispatched to Mars orbit. For 2 days, they detected nothing unusual. Then, without warning, 3 massive ships appeared near Mars. They didn't respond to any communications. They simply moved into attack positions and opened fire. The Mars colony's defenses were minimal. They were designed to deflect meteors, not energy weapons. Within minutes, the colony's protective domes were breached. Emergency alarms blared as people rushed to the escape pods. On Earth, military command centers burst into frantic activity as the attack was detected. But they could only watch helplessly. No Earth ship could reach Mars in time. When it was over, the alien ships sent a single message to Earth. The Mars facility violated Council technology restrictions. This corrective action was regrettably necessary. Then they vanished as quickly as they had appeared. 5,243 colonists died that day. Among them was Emma Peterson, Jack's sister. In the White House Situation Room, President Grayson watched the grim-faced military leaders give their report. The attack was precise and overwhelming, General Martinez said. Their technology is significantly advanced beyond ours. How many got out? The president asked quietly. Only 17 escape pods launched successfully. 612 survivors total. Sam Harris stood in the corner, his face ashen. This is my fault. I led the delegation. I delivered our refusal. No, the president said firmly. This was always their plan. If we had accepted their terms, we would have simply been slaves waiting for the day they decided to destroy us anyway. Grace Murphy, who had been analyzing the attack data, looked up. There's something else. The colony wasn't developing restricted technology. The terraforming equipment was basic science, nothing advanced. They lied, Jack said, his voice hollow with grief and rage. They wanted an excuse to show their power. President Grayson stood up straight. Then they've made a terrible mistake. They've shown us exactly what kind of beings they really are. He turned to face everyone in the room. We tried peace. We tried diplomacy. Now, they've left us only one option. Jack's eyes had a dangerous gleam. What are your orders, Mr. President? Prepare everything we have. Grayson said. It's time to show the Council what happens when humanity stops talking. The world watched in silence as President Grayson addressed the United Nations 3 days after the Mars attack. His face was grim, his voice steady. We sought peace and were met with slaughter. We extended our hand in friendship and were shown contempt. 5,000 of our people lie dead because we dared to claim our independence. Today, we show the Council what happens when humanity stops talking. Unknown to the Council, Earth had not been idle during the past year. Hidden shipyards had been constructing vessels with technology even Earth's own governments hadn't known existed. Secret military programs had developed weapons systems that had been kept off all official records. Commander Lisa Wright, who had received the first Council transmission a year ago, now stood on the bridge of Earth's newest warship. She looked at her crew, all of them wearing black armbands for the Mars victims. All systems ready, Commander, her first officer reported. Lisa nodded. Begin jump sequence. Let's bring the fight to them. Across the solar system, 30 Earth ships activated their engines simultaneously. They jumped to coordinates that intelligence had identified as key Council outposts in neighboring star systems. On a small Council monitoring station near Alpha Centauri, alarms suddenly blared. The Xari officer in charge barely had time to register what was happening before human Marines boarded the station. They moved with precision, disabling rather than killing when possible. Similar scenes played out across 12 different locations. The Council, having never faced serious military resistance, was completely unprepared for the human response. Their complacency had been their undoing. On Earth, Sam Harris watched the battle reports come in. The first wave had been almost completely successful. 28 of 30 targets secured, with minimal human casualties. I never thought we had this kind of capability, Grace said, standing beside him. Few did, Sam replied. Apparently, some of our military leaders have been preparing for alien contact for decades. They kept it compartmentalized, off the books. Jack entered the command center, his face showing the first signs of satisfaction since his sister's death. Phase 1 complete. The Council doesn't know what hit them. President Grayson turned to his advisors. What's their response so far? Confusion, Intelligence Director Diane Foster reported. Their communication channels are in chaos. They never expected us to strike first or to have this level of technology. The secure door to the command center suddenly opened. A security team entered, followed by a familiar insectoid figure. Kirik. Grace gasped. The Xari scientist's mandibles clicked nervously. I came to help. After the Mars attack, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Jack's hand moved to his weapon. How do we know this isn't a trick? Because I brought this. Kirik held up a data crystal, complete schematics of the Council's defense network. access codes to their communication relays, locations of their primary shipyards. President Grayson studied the alien carefully. Why betray your people? The Council isn't what it claims to be, Kirik replied. It doesn't preserve peace. It enforces control. What they did to your Mars colony, it wasn't the first time. My own people were once guided with similar methods centuries ago. We've been trying to break free ever since. Diane took the crystal and began analyzing its contents. Her eyes widened. This is legitimate. If this information is accurate, we can cripple their ability to respond for months. President Grayson turned to Commander Wright on the video screen. Lisa, prepare your fleet for Phase 2. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. Lisa nodded. New targets. Yes, the President said. But this time, we're not just hitting outposts. We're going after their core systems. As the meeting continued, Sam found himself standing next to Kirik. There will be others like you, won't there? Other species who want freedom from the Council. Kirik's compound eyes glinted. Many. They just needed someone to show them it was possible to fight back. Sam looked around the room at the determined faces of humans preparing for war, then back at their unexpected alien ally. Then I think the Council has made a serious miscalculation. Outside, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon. A new day was beginning. For Earth and perhaps for the galaxy as well. 6 months passed. The war spread across dozens of star systems. Humanity pushed deeper into Council space with each passing week. Other species, long suppressed by Council rule, began to rise up. The Xkari were first, led by scientists and thinkers like Kirik. Then came the crystalline Koros, whose natural abilities in energy manipulation made them powerful allies. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Lisa Wright, recently promoted from commander, watched a Council warship surrender without firing a shot. That's the 5th one this week, her first officer noted. Word is spreading. Lisa nodded. The Council is losing control, not just of space, but of their narrative. Across the galaxy, a very different scene played out on a Council core world. Overseer Vrith stood before a tribunal of his peers. His once shimmering skin now looked dull and lifeless. How could we have miscalculated so badly? Demanded a Koros elder, her crystal form pulsing with angry red light. The humans have destroyed our defenses, turned our own member species against us, and now threaten the heart of our territory. Vrith seemed to shrink under their gaze. We applied the same protocols we've used for thousands of years. They should have worked. Well, they didn't, snapped another Council member. And now we face the first real threat to our power in millennia. On Earth, Sam Harris prepared for the most important meeting of his life. As the newly appointed Chancellor of Interstellar Relations, he would host representatives from 27 species that had either broken from Council rule or had never been part of it to begin with. Grace Murphy, now leading a team of xenobiologists, helped brief him on the cultural backgrounds of each delegate. The Nuvi communicate partially through color changes, she explained. Be sure your translator is set to advanced mode. Sam nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Any word from Jack? His task force just secured another Council data center. He says he's found more evidence of their manipulation. Entire species whose histories were rewritten to keep them compliant. When the delegates gathered, the room hummed with different languages, atmospheric requirements, and biological needs, yet they shared a common purpose. Sam stepped to the podium. Today marks the beginning of something new. Not an empire, not a council that rules from above, but an alliance of equals. The Sovereign Systems Alliance will stand for the principle that all sentient beings have the right to determine their own future. One by one, the delegates voiced their support. Treaties were signed. Agreements were reached. A new order was taking shape from the ashes of the old. In deep space, Admiral Wright received the news with satisfaction. Set course for the Alliance rendezvous point, she ordered. The Council fleet has been contained. Months later, on a world once considered the heartland of Council power, Overseer Vrith sat alone in a cell. The door opened, and to his surprise, Sam Harris entered. "Have you come to gloat?" Vrith asked bitterly. Sam shook his head. "I came to understand. How could you not see this coming? How could you believe you could simply control us?" Vrith's skin flickered briefly with its old colors. "We forgot the most important law of the universe. Evolution rewards adaptation, not control. The moment humans abandoned talks, our fate was sealed." Sam studied the fallen overseer. "You'll face trial for what happened on Mars, but your people won't be punished for the actions of their leaders. That's the difference between us." As Sam left, Vrith called after him. "It won't last, you know. Your alliance. Power corrupts all species eventually." Sam paused at the door. "Maybe. But we'll adapt when that happens. That's what humans do." On the observation deck of her flagship, Admiral Wright stood watching as ships from a dozen worlds moved into formation around hers. Former enemies now allies, former subjects now equals. A young officer joined her at the viewport. "Admiral, the Alliance Council is requesting your presence at the ceremony." Lisa smiled. "Tell them I'm on my way." As her shuttle departed for the newly established Alliance headquarters, Lisa thought about how it all began, with a simple message from the stars and humanity's fateful decision to walk away from a bad deal. Sometimes, she reflected, the most powerful word in any language is simply no.